Have you ever asked yourself why your life feels heavy, even when nothing seems to be wrong? Why, no matter how much you achieve, some quiet unease still lingers in the background, like an echo you can't silence? Marcus Aurelius asked the same questions nearly 2,000 years ago. He was the most powerful man in the world, Emperor of Rome, and yet, he wrote not about conquering nations, but about conquering the chaos within. He didn't care to be remembered as a ruler. He cared to die as a good man. Today, his words whisper across centuries not with the roar of authority, but with the quiet force of truth. In a world drowning in noise, his clarity strikes like a match in darkness. And if you let it, it can light a fire in your life. A fire of discipline. Of peace. Of inner strength. What you are about to hear are not tips, not tactics, not self-help gimmicks. These are battle-tested principles. Rules forged in the crucible of war, loss, betrayal, illness, and responsibility no man should bear alone. But Marcus did. And through it all, he wrote to himself. Not for glory. Not for you or me. But to survive with dignity. And unknowingly, he left us a path. The first thing he teaches, without ever saying it directly, is this: your mind is your kingdom. All that you fear, all that you crave, all that disturbs you, it lives in thought. You have power over your mind, he wrote. Not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength. But we don't want to hear that. We'd rather believe that other people ruin our day. That traffic, politics, bad luck, or a careless word is the reason for our anxiety. That life is unfair. Maybe it is. But that's not the point. The point is that your reaction is yours. No one else controls it. Not your boss. Not your ex. Not even fate. When you remember that, you stop being a victim. You stop letting storms decide the shape of your soul. You start choosing. Marcus had every excuse to collapse. To curse the gods. To escape into pleasure or apathy. He buried children. He fought a brutal plague. He led Rome through war after war. And through it all, he kept returning to one place, the stillness within. So ask yourself, when was the last time you sat in silence and simply observed your own thoughts? Not scrolled, not distracted, not escaped, but faced the raw, unfiltered noise in your head? Most of us avoid it. We fear what we'll hear. But Marcus believed you must enter that space daily, because that is where you take responsibility for your life. That is where you train. He wrote, the happiness of your life depends upon the quality of your thoughts. What if that's true? Not your salary. Not your relationships. Not even your health. Just the quality of your thoughts. If that's the case, then your first duty isn't to fix the world. It's to clean the lens through which you see it. And this is where his second rule begins to emerge, even if he never numbers them. It's the discipline of perspective. Things are not good or bad, he says. Thinking makes them so. You lost money. Life didn't end. Someone insulted you. They're free to speak. A plan fell through. Welcome to reality. The obstacle becomes the way. Marcus doesn't ask you to pretend that pain doesn't hurt. He simply reminds you, pain is not eternal. And how you meet it, that is what defines your life. You can suffer nobly, or you can suffer pointlessly. The choice is always there. In his private writings, he tells himself things most of us would only admit in the dark. Don't waste time arguing what a good man should be, he says. Be one. That's his third rule, embody what you admire. Don't wait for the world to change. Don't wait for the applause. Don't wait for motivation. Get up. Do the thing. Be the person you respect. Even if no one sees. Even if no one understands. He reminds himself that each morning he will meet liars, cowards, the greedy, the foolish. And yet, he says, none of them can harm me. For we were made for cooperation. Can you imagine waking up not hoping for kindness, but preparing for hostility, and choosing kindness anyway? This is not weakness. This is power. This is principle. The kind that doesn't shake when the wind blows. The kind that doesn't need to be loud to be strong. We've confused softness with strength. Marcus clarifies it. He was gentle without being weak. Stoic, not cold. Present, but not attached. And that is where we begin to uncover the fourth rule, one many of us resist: let go of control. Control is an illusion, and yet it drives our every fear. We obsess over outcomes. We try to force people to behave. We rehearse tragedies that haven't happened yet. But Marcus says, accept whatever comes to you woven in the pattern of your destiny, for what could more aptly fit your needs? Can you accept that some things are simply not yours to shape? That all you truly own is your action, your intention? Then act well. Speak honestly. Show up. And release the rest. Because the Stoic doesn't measure success by results. The Stoic measures success by character. And maybe this is the most radical thing Marcus ever wrote: you are enough. Not because you're perfect. Not because you've done everything right. But because in this exact moment, with all your flaws, all your failures, all your doubts, you still have the power to live well. To act justly. To think clearly. To respond with grace. That brings us to something that could be called his fifth rule, though again, he never calls them rules. He lived them. And the next one is simple, but difficult: do your duty. It sounds boring. Old-fashioned. But there's nothing more powerful. Marcus Aurelius believed you were born for a reason, and no, he didn't mean some grand mystical destiny. He meant you were born to be useful. To serve. To contribute something, no matter how small, to the common good. He reminded himself daily, at dawn, when you have trouble getting out of bed, tell yourself, I have to go to work, as a human being. What do I have to complain of, if I'm going to do what I was born for? We waste so much time chasing comfort. Chasing status. Chasing freedom from effort. But Marcus asks, is that really freedom? Or is it just another prison? You were made for more than just feeling good. You were made for doing good. That doesn't mean martyrdom. It means purpose. Integrity. Showing up for your roles, as a parent, as a friend, as a citizen, as a soul among souls, with full presence. And not because it will be noticed. Not because it guarantees reward. But because it is right. He reminds himself, and us, that everything you avoid doing today becomes the burden of tomorrow. So do it now. Not in a rush. Not in perfection. Just with honesty. That's what makes a life good. Not grand gestures. But consistent alignment with your highest values, even when no one is watching. But of course, we are human. We fail. We stumble. We get angry, distracted, bitter, selfish. We forget. And that's why Marcus doesn't preach. He reflects. He doesn't say, be a god. He says, be tolerant with others, strict with yourself. And here, we arrive at what may be the most humbling of his principles: forgiveness, not weakness, but wisdom. He lived among men who betrayed him. Senators who lied to his face. Generals who disobeyed. Family members who let him down. And yet, he writes with compassion. He reminds himself that people act from ignorance, not evil. That judgment is easy, but empathy is stronger. When someone wrongs you, he says, ask yourself, have I ever done the same? Could I do the same under pressure? Do I understand the full weight of their situation? If you do, arrogance fades. And in its place, humility begins. This is not about being passive. Marcus took action when needed. But his actions were guided by principle, not vengeance. He sought justice, not victory. Clarity, not dominance. And he constantly reminded himself that time is short. You could leave life right now, he wrote, let that determine what you do and say and think. So here we come to the sixth truth, not a rule, but a flame that burned at the center of his life: remember death, and live fully. Memento mori. It sounds grim. But it's the opposite. To remember that life ends is to finally begin living it. It wakes you up. It dissolves your petty complaints. It makes each sunrise a gift, not a guarantee. Most people live like they're immortal. Postponing meaning. Delaying love. Pushing off dreams. But Marcus knew better. He wrote to himself not to waste another second. Because death is not something that happens someday. It is happening now. Time is not owned. It is borrowed. And if that's true, what are you doing with it? He tells himself, concentrate every minute like a Roman, as if it were your last. That doesn't mean panic. It means presence. It means gratitude. It means cutting through distraction like a blade and facing this moment, fully, honestly, completely. You don't know how many chances you'll get. You don't know if you'll get to say the thing you've been meaning to. or fix the relationship, or begin again. But you have now. And that's enough. This moment is enough. And finally, we arrive at a principle that runs beneath all the others, the quiet foundation beneath every Stoic act: live according to nature. What does that mean? For Marcus, it meant living in harmony with reality, not fighting it, not wishing it away, not chasing fantasies of what should be, but embracing what is, and acting in accordance with it. He believed that humans were not separate from nature. We are nature. And just like a tree reaches upward without needing applause, just like the sun rises without hesitation, we too must live in accord with our design. That design is reason, connection, courage, justice, acceptance. When you live this way, life doesn't get easier, but it gets clearer. You stop trying to bend the world. You start aligning yourself with it. And in that alignment, you find peace. Not the peace of still waters, but the peace of a steady ship in a storm. There is something profound in realizing that Marcus Aurelius, a man who could command armies and dictate the fate of nations, spent his nights scribbling in his journal about patience, humility, and not getting annoyed when someone interrupted him during breakfast. He could have written decrees for glory. Instead, he wrote reminders to himself like, "Don't be overheard complaining, not even to yourself." Why? Because he knew what most of us are only beginning to understand: your inner world is where your life is won or lost. You can build wealth, status, reputation. But if your thoughts are in chaos, you'll be a prisoner, no matter how free you look on the outside. That's why Marcus returned again and again to this quiet, personal discipline. Not to impress, but to stay upright. He was not perfect. He never claimed to be. That's why his words endure, because they come from a man at war with himself, not above it. A man who was trying, every day, to remember what mattered and to let go of what didn't. And if you really study his words, not just skim them, not just post them as quotes, but truly absorb them, they begin to change something in you. You start to understand that nothing belongs to you, not your possessions, not your body, not even your time. Everything is temporary. Everything is borrowed. The only thing you truly own is the choice to act rightly, here and now. You begin to notice your urges. The desire to argue, to win, to prove, to indulge, to escape. And slowly, you learn to step back, to pause, to question them. Not repress, but examine. That's the training. That's what Marcus did. Day after day. He wasn't writing polished essays. He was writing to himself. Trying to remember that the only thing he controls is his own mind and actions. Trying to hold the line against ego, fear, laziness, distraction. He reminded himself, and now, through him, reminds us, that each moment is an opportunity. To show character. To do what is right. Even if it's small. Even if it's hard. Especially then. Because that's where strength is built. Not in comfort. But in confrontation with reality, met with integrity. So maybe the question isn't, how do I get a better life? Maybe it's, how do I become a better human in the life I already have? That shift changes everything. It stops you from waiting. From postponing meaning. From blaming the world for your dissatisfaction. And it places the responsibility, and the power, back where it belongs, with you. And when you understand that, deeply, you stop rushing. You stop chasing every impulse like a dog chasing cars. You become still. Not passive, but grounded. Calm. Focused. You don't need to react to everything. You don't need to fight every battle. You don't need to prove your worth. You simply live it, through action, through presence, through quiet courage. This is what Marcus meant when he said, "Waste no more time arguing about what a good man should be. Be one. Not someday. Now. In how you speak. How you listen. How you carry yourself when no one is watching. Because that's who you really are. And it's not about being invincible. It's about being resilient. It's about failing and returning. Falling and rising. Forgetting and remembering again. And again. Marcus reminds us that we are temporary beings in a vast, indifferent universe. But instead of despairing, he finds liberation in that fact. If you're going to vanish, and so is everyone you know, then why waste your days in bitterness? Why waste your heart on envy, resentment, comparison? Why spend your mind rehearsing pain that hasn't happened? You are here. Briefly. And within that brief flame of existence, you have the power to create beauty. Not through control, but through virtue. Through how you endure. How you forgive. How you show up with honesty, again and again, despite the cost. That's what Stoicism is. Not suppression. Not indifference. But moral clarity in the face of chaos. It teaches you not to expect comfort. But to bring strength. Not to demand fairness. But to embody justice. Not to chase fame. But to choose humility. And maybe most importantly, it teaches you to die well, which really means, to live well. So if there's one thing Marcus Aurelius would whisper to you now, it wouldn't be complicated. It wouldn't be dramatic. It would be simple, quiet, and real. He would say, stop waiting. Stop waiting for peace to arrive from outside. Stop waiting for others to validate your worth. Stop waiting for perfect conditions to begin. Live as if you were dying. Because you are. And that is not tragedy. That is your chance to rise. To live each moment as a conscious act of strength. To forgive quickly, love deeply, work honestly, and let go gracefully. To be the kind of person you admire, not in theory, but in action. Because this is your life. No one else will live it for you. And when your last day comes, whether tomorrow or years from now, you will want to look back and know this. That you didn't just exist. You lived. Not perfectly. But with intention. With courage. With dignity. And that, in the words of the last philosopher king, is enough.